cuando ya estoy trabajando en eso. Tú puedes enseñar, voy a ponerte a ti. ¿Sabes? Voy a poner, no a ti, pero. I don't know, porque ellos van a preguntar en qué uno está.
Lanzando tu website con tu compañía.
It's like a performance piece inside their home.
Poner a minorías en las voces principales como directores de una compañía de documental, ¿se entiende? Una compañía que se adaptó de otra, una compañía para coger a todo el mundo, ¿entiendes? A la otra que habla de Washington.
Is that you?
Hi, what?
Tomas, I think he's in the bottom right corner.
That's me.
All right.
Good to see you.
Long time good friend.
Yes.
Long time. Thanks for joining. And thanks to everyone else for logging in to the third session of the 5 Points Art Gallery Virtual Art Connect. We're doing this not just for connectivity, but so the artists can remain visible in the world. The supporters and collectors of the space and the artists interface with the artists in case they haven't met them in person. Because the gallery usually does artist chats, especially with openings for exhibitions. But I'm very keen on putting a heart behind the work and letting the people get to know the artists directly. I think they best tell their stories. And then also just to let everyone know what's going on, or the artist can tell everyone what's going on during this time. If there's been a shift in their production, in their lives, and how they can let you know what's going on. If they need some extra kind of support, there's now an open network to more connection.
¿Cómo se dice eso? La compañía que estamos lanzando.
I think she can mute her microphone.
Lanzando.
Launching a production
No sé el
house.
verbo.
Launching a production house and agency.
So this session is focused on the photographers and filmmakers that have exhibited in the space. There are more than the ones that are shown, but the 3 featured today are Liliet Rosa Reyes from Havana, Cuba, but she lives in New York, so she's able to call in. Then we have Jerry Styberg, who lives in Wauwatosa, and then there's Portia Cobb, who lives in Milwaukee. And so another big facet about showing all 3 of the artists is to show the diversity. The space is primarily artists of color, but you know, there's diverse artists in here. And diverse aesthetics. And I haven't asked like, oh, is this only for Black people? The answer is no. But again, it's not those who have been overlooked historically and traditionally and still to this day.
Whoa. We're getting sounds of the city.
So I'm actually in the gallery bathroom to show Portia's work.
Yay! That's our work. We did that collaboratively.
I like the theme of photography, and I actually have some of the pieces surrounded by me of each of the artists. So 2 other artists who couldn't make it are also from Cuba, are also based artists. We have Alan, who's made like some he did acting in his Chinese lineage in some film. And then I'm gonna have to turn. I'm here. This is a light box. I don't know if you can make it out.
We can see the light. Oh, now we can. Yeah, depending.
This is another artist. So she's it's a very social political piece, and it's actually 7 pieces about being a citizen in Havana, Cuba, and loving their country and identity, but having some contention with the political system which is might not be too different from us, but yeah. So we're gonna get started with Portia since I showed her work behind us. You can introduce yourself, let us know what you do, your focus, and what's been going on with you.
Okay. Well, I teach the moving image. I teach film at UWM. I'm an experimentalist. I came out of an experimental program at San Francisco State University. Coming to Milwaukee, I began to, my job was to teach, but also to direct a community media project. So my focus has always been on community and access to tools to tell stories, which is really interesting. A filmmaker who just passed away that definitely would have been one of the people whose shoulders I stood on, meaning that I admired her work. Her name is Sarah Maldoror, and she would tell films about revolution and colonialism out of African Portuguese. So she was Portuguese. And so she passed away the other day. And so that left a big gap in, our film community. But I love what she always said. I loved what she said because it felt like it shaped the work I was making. And I was at a conference one year where she happened to be, and I met her for the first time. And at that time, she had to be in her late 60s, I would say. And her mantra was that, or her manifesto was that a camera is a tool, not a toy. A camera is a tool, not a toy. So I feel like my work also exists in that realm, in that field. The classes I teach are like radical film. They're topical right now. And I try to show films made by people whose films are not shown on screens that we may always occupy, right? That we always see. So her film, Sambi Sanga, is one of those films that I think has great meaning for me in the way that I might tell my stories. So I spend a lot of time, I really get more from telling stories that are in the field, that are express community or place. I spent a lot of time in South Carolina. My family is from that region, and we are, oh, thank you. We call ourselves Gullah Geechee, and I don't know if you've heard that term before or known that it was a subculture within America, within the Sea Islands. My mother was born and raised there. My mother's family members still live there, although we don't live there. We're still very much a part of the fabric of the whole Gullah Geechee identity. So this past December, I got to go to Sierra Leone, which has historical connections to South Carolina. And we find those connections through our dialect, and also through material practices, and also through culinary connections to that place. I think throughout West Africa, but specifically Sierra Leone. So when we heard them speak and using certain words or nouns, they were similar to the way that we might speak. And so historians will tell you that it's a hybrid language of English and Africanisms, right? So instead of saying woman, I might say uman, and they would say that too. And so hearing them speak, hearing their dialect, knowing that we understood each other most of the time, if not all of the time, and also knowing from that region after visiting that there are different ethnic groups there. There were returns, so there was like a double migration of resettlement by African Americans who were emancipated from slavery and went back to Sierra Leone. Some people can trace themselves directly back to Sierra Leone, but within the Gullah Geechee culture, it's understood that we're coming from different parts of West Africa. It could be Angola, it could be Ghana, it could be you know, it could be Mali and Guinea, and maybe more directly within Sierra Leone. So on that trip, I tried to use my camera as much as I could. I took a fancy camera that I couldn't charge, and I ended up using my iPhone, which I felt like I got more authentic images, you know, because I didn't have to, it was automatic. And I think that as I look back over my journey as an artist, expressing in the image, it all began with poetry. And from poetry, I went to radio. Radio sent me to film. So when I think about my process, I always think about it as when I'm writing poetry now, I feel like this is kind of the root of what I do visually. I'm paying attention, you know, to write a poem, you're paying attention to what you see and what you hear. I'm doing the same thing when I create my films, which are short. I call them ethnoloric because they're shorts. They're not features. I've worked with people who are ethnographers, anthropologists. That's the privilege of being in a university. I feel like I can take my hat off and be an artist and be these other things too, or I can express in that way. And I feel like I've been in situations where, you know, travel led me to tell different stories and to collaborate. Sorry, turning this off. Sorry about that.
I have a couple questions for you.
Okay.
So going back to the big influencer for you that who passed, who said a camera is a tool, not a toy,
Mm-hmm.
and how the masses now use the iPhone or their cell phone
Mm-hmm.
as a camera and express, I guess, a proficiency in the craft.
Mm-hmm.
You think that contradicts her message? Do you think it's a
No, I think it's, you know, it's like when we of a certain age can remember a very popular song by Gil Scott-Heron that said the revolution will not be televised. And now we find that it is televised pretty much, right? That we are makers, that now that everyone has access, pretty much everyone has access. I think it also depends, I think it kind of comes back to the foundations of what kind of stories are present for us or who we are. I think Sarah Maldoror's more direct quote was, the camera is a weapon and not a toy. The camera is a weapon. And so for her, it meant that she was definitely using it in that way, in a way that was revolutionary, in a way that would cause friction, you know. So I think that some of us do that. And again, with the privilege of access, even when I was in film school, I remember I knew that I had the responsibility of sharing certain stories. You know, I knew that I went to film school for that reason. I wanted to share the stories that I didn't feel were represented on screen. So I think, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Sorry, since travel informed and influenced your process and your content, how has the shutdown in travel affected your practice?
It doesn't, because I feel like I capture things with my camera almost daily. So the privilege of having a phone, like a smartphone, when I take a walk, I'm still, there's another person who is a writer who wrote about strengthening the eye, you know, and I try to get my students to do that, like to be more observant about what they see in space. When I'm using my camera, I feel like it's intentional, that I'm seeing something that I might not see again, and I want to record it, I want to capture it. And I might see it and know that I wouldn't see it the same way twice because light is hitting it a certain way, you know, or someone is in the frame or whatever that might be. So I hope I answered that question. I kind of went off on something else, but I think that when I'm using my camera and I think about travel, I have so much stuff I've archived. I just go back in my archives now and I can say now I have the time to actually give this more thought or to look at it differently. Whereas it's just been sitting there, maybe I had someone critiquing it, and I never went back to it because I had to give myself space around how I felt about it or how they felt about it, So now it's kind of refreshing to go back on some of my old external drives and find material that I might have recorded in Africa 20 years ago, So to look back that far and say, this is still current, I should still do something with this. And then to look at the material that's very present, whatever I captured when I was there most recently, and say, I can see potential for this too. It has currency for me, and I feel that it isn't stuck in time. It still will tell a story somehow for me.
Jerry, I'm going to shift to you because I know you recently traveled to Mexico to kind of a new body of work, some of which you brought to the gallery, but maybe you can tell us how the lack of travel permission might have affected your work, if it has, and what you've been up to now.
You're talking to me?
Yes, Jerry.
Yes. Well, the trip to Mexico, for one, was absolutely astounding because I had the opportunity to work with Keith Carter. He's a Texas, actually was born and raised for a couple of years in Madison, Wisconsin, moved to Texas, and has chronicled the small town life in Texas as one of the things that gave him the springboard to get his career going. The opportunity just to travel and be with other people in another place, just to enter into your question, is really a good thing. The work I'm doing right now isn't dependent so much on travel because I'm, as you know, a lot of my work is focused on the small scale world of every day. And I shifted after Mexico into another experiment with a group of photographers out of Madison. And we were doing something that would, there's one of the images. I can show these on my screen too, if you'd like.
You want to screen share?
Nice.
Should we screen share?
You can do that.
Sure.
Let's do that. Hang on a second. Just take me a second to get in the right place. Close that and get this. I did practice this afternoon, Fatima.
No problem.
All right, here we go.
I see Benny showed up. Hey, Benny.
Let's see, let's do a share. And now we can get someplace.
Oh, nice.
See, a lot of my work is very, I call it contemplative because I've often, my photography goes back to about till to 1980 when I started traveling. This was more trips with, just to explore other countries, mostly in Western Europe. But I always wanted to gather the scene and, kind of capture it and put it together in a memory about a place. But my 35-year career in healthcare management ended about 8 years ago. And before that happened, I decided I wanted to go into more of a focused kind of photography that was deeper than what I had done before, meaning more probative, more contemplative, more digging into kind of everyday objects. And so I started to create a body of work that resulted from that. So to get to your question, Fatima, I don't need to worry about travel so much right now, and especially now with this kind of a ability to talk with other photographers or other people that are photography. It gives me a chance at least to keep showing work that I'm working on and have conversation about the work. Let me show you some of the ones from, I think they're the ones that you just held up as prints. I gotta find my place here in just a second.
Nice.
Yeah, if you're interested, I have a website. It's JC Styberg Photography.
You could also type it into your chat. I just did that for mine.
Oh, all right. The website?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm still working my way through a lot of this stuff. Let's see if I can find what I'm trying to show you.
That helps.
Oh, here. So this is one of the images that came out of that trip to Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
We were this workshop. It was a 10-day workshop, or 8 days, but we were there for 10. Let me just see if I can get this enlarged. Well, maybe you can see it the best I can do here. Hang on a second. This always happens just when you want to show it the way it's supposed to go. Okay, look at that. Try this. It doesn't seem to do it. That's not it.
Yeah. It's just
Okay. But San Miguel de Allende, where this was held, is about a 500-year-old city. It's colonial Spanish. It's gone through a tremendous amount of change over the years, but it developed into kind of an art colony, I would say probably about in the late 60s, I think, when a lot of artists came from the US and from other countries to settle in there, and because it's got such a unique historical culture, architectural culture, and it's become a place of people who are interested in the visual arts, the performance arts, dance, music, weaving, all sorts of things. And so we were out doing work during this workshop that was titled The Poetry of Emotion. And it became quite challenging to try to work, for example, off of a poem that Keith Carter would give us in the morning of a session, and then pick a line or a stanza from the poem, and we were to photograph what we felt depicted that in a visual way. So you got to go from that world of words to the world of images and try to bring that together. I'm kind of going around in circles a little bit here, Fatima, but I wanted to just talk a little bit about this work.
You're fine.
Is that okay? You're good?
Mm-hmm.
Let me
I
just,
like that idea of having a prompt like that, like a poem to work from.
I had never done that before, Portia, and it was quite a challenge because I've always thought that it's difficult when you're doing visual work and it's an image that you create. And for me, that often happens because I'm just in a connection with this subject, and often it will be something that I spend some time with to get to know the subject a bit. And then it kind of comes to me how that should be represented, and I take the image. Other times it's more intuitive and it's quicker. An example of that, let me just see if I can find, of that idea is, let me go to this image. Can you see that okay?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is one that I find something that I can go back to over and over again. And to me, this is one of my best abstracts from a nature scene. When people ask what I do, I said one of the things I'm most interested in is abstract nature photography. And it's things that will give you a sense of a place, but a sense of mystery about the place at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
This just happened. I didn't plan this one so much other than I was at a place in a nature center where it was springtime. It was about this time of year. There was snow melting off of branches of a tree into a pond. There were tree branches overhanging. It was a partly cloudy, partly sunny day with a little wind, and all those things came together. And in the midst of all of that, there I was, and I made this capture that I feel is, it's one that speaks to me, and if other people have found it, they like it, I guess is what I can say.
Mm-hmm.
You sounded poetic telling that story.
Well, I think there's a lot to be said about poetry. You know, you were saying that too, Portia, but Patricia and I are big fans of Mary Oliver. You know her? She passed.
Yeah, I know that work. Yeah.
In fact, now that we're, you know, kind of homebound, we've been very active with the local Wisconsin Athletic Club group, and there's about 40 of us in that group. We've been sending out now, tomorrow will be message number 21. Every day we Patricia picks a poem, and then I'll put it in the computer and we send it out to the whole group. But we're very taken with her connection with nature. And she has an uncanny, if you know her work, an uncanny ability to express, it's hard to say, things that you kind of feel, but you don't have the words to say it, because she's such a gifted, was such a gifted poet. That's what I'm hoping to do with this a little bit. Let me show you, you asked too, Fatima, about where I'm headed. Let me see if I can get into my blog real quick, because this is something that I've been wanting to do for some time. And it's about time, and that's the next project that I'm working on. If this will open up. Are you guys seeing?
We can
See that? There it is. It was just taking a while. Maybe because you have other windows open.
Yeah, I think so. About 2 years ago, I said, I'd really like to do a project about time. And it was just this notion that flew out in the air like that. And it sort of stuck with me. And so you can read this on the blog, but I started to actually sit down and go through an exercise of like doing a Google search or a literature search and looking for that, for the word time used in literature, quotes from famous people. I've read several books on time, and from different perspectives. One was from an astrophysicist, another, the guy who wrote Tuesday with Morrie, wrote the Timekeeper, what's his name, Mitch Albom, and other books like that. And then I started to do some just jotting things down, and I came up with, these are some of the themes that I intend to explore. The challenge of this is to take words, whether you write them yourself about some notion of time, like what about memory, and is memory real, and try to depict a concept with a visual image. And so I'm sort of playing around with that right now to see how that's going to play out. I'm probably going to end up teaching myself more about using layered images where I can show relationship of one image to another that expresses a concept that's in words, but it'll be visual. So that's the challenge that I'm trying to work through. This could take a couple of years to get it someplace.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing, Jerry. I'm gonna transition to Liliet.
Sure.
She also does digital film, but I think she actually she specializes and she develops her own film.
Yeah.
And so she does it at home too. So she can show us her workspace and talk to us about what she's doing. Like I said, she is originally from Cuba, been living in New York for like 3 years now.
Yeah, like 4 years or so.
4 years. And so she's a good international and national bridge to different cultures while we're talking about travel. But also you can let us know how are things going for you, what you've been up to, how's your family, what are you looking to do? Maybe show us some tidbits of what you've been working on.
Yeah, I mean, I developed in the house, but before all this, before the COVID-19 and stuff, and by now I have been using C41 chemicals from B&H. I'm wondering what I'm gonna do now, because I'm not sure that they delivery film through the mail office, because it's chemicals, and I think that is not legal, that you have to go and pick up. Not quite sure what I'm gonna do, but by now I have been developing as usual. I showed to you the other day. I use like basic things. Let me see, how can I flip the camera? Yeah, like I have filming here to develop, and usually the dark bag is really close to me all the time. Like right now I have inside, so I have to develop this one. As I told you before, I got the key. So I have the chemicals down here, like all the
Fixers.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the fix, the bleach, all the things. And I do it here in my kitchen. I just warm the chemicals in the hot water, and yeah, basically I do all the filming here. But I have been working a lot now in like developing a website, because my friend and I, we are like, all the film that I develop is like I hang it in there, or like,
Wow.
yeah, I just have in there. Wait. So I have been working with my friend now because before the COVID-19 and all this, we had a couple of projects going on with short films and documentaries and stuff, but we never had the time to edit and stuff because we were working to pay the rent. Now with all the quarantine, we had a lot of time to work on all this, and we are trying to launch a website for a production house that can connect different artists from like minorities, like let's say it's people from the Bronx, from Brooklyn, but like real artists that are living in there, and that we can listen to their voices, that like contact people that we already know from that they are doing like photography, videos and stuff, like put everybody together in this website through their work. I'm gonna call my friend to see if we can show a video that we work on with Mika that you already know, and you can talk a little bit about her and her art, and go back to me when I have the video.
Okay. Go ahead. So Kamika she's a young African American artist. She's phenomenal. She doesn't do photography. She actually, I don't want to dumb down. She's very good at like illustration and drawing, but she does like a story with her illustrations, and they're out of paper. That's her medium, is paper. And
So
then
sculpture, so kind of sculptural?
it's 2D, but
Okay.
she'll cut into it.
You're gonna see now, let me.
She's gonna show you. But she was going to also be, so the gallery had the This Is America exhibition coming up in July. And it's still right now scheduled, and I'm hoping that I don't have to postpone it, but she would have been one of the featured artists too. Also, while you're getting that up, Portia, I was gonna ask you, do you have any work that you want to show the audience?
Sure. I can get to my website, and there's work on there. So
Okay.
I guess after this, I can set that up. I did put my.
I'm ready.
And then at the bottom, you'll allow you to share your screen.
Okay. Okay.
And then you can navigate us around.
Okay. I think she's ready. I think she's saying.
Yeah.
Are you ready? Okay.
I mean, I'm gonna put it here because I don't have it in my. We don't have it in
the computer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Brothers dressed in gold and chrome. Saturn moon on my sister's hips. Sand in my hand like Gara. Slipping through my fingers, water drips.
That's poetic.
Birthday waiting for rain. Hands become Buddha palms from pain. The flow is bold, the river insane. My soul grows into leaves. The crow flies by. My work is crop circles you can't explain.
That's nice.
Thank you. I can send a link. I don't know how I'm gonna.
You just
do you have access to this group chat?
I guess so. I have
I mean,
been
like,
looking at it.
Yeah, maybe copy and paste it into there. If not, you can send it to me, and then I'll get it out.
Okay, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna send it to you, Fatima. And you put it on the same. But yeah, basically that's what I have been doing during this time, like working a lot. Now we are going to try to do this tomorrow also, like to capture this in like 360 in the house, like all these things to put on the website and stuff. Basically like trying to learn and getting the best that I can do in this time. That's it.
You mentioned trying to still look for jobs on Craigslist.
Yeah, I have been applying to things, but most of the time, like they are not looking for videographers. They are looking for motion designers, and editing to do the videos and stuff. But I'm not like, I'm learning now like animation, but it's not my, I know how to edit, but it's not my
Specialty.
main thing.
Mhm.
Okay.
And how are things abroad? Are you able to communicate with your friends and family?
Yeah, I mean, in Cuba, I communicate with my dad. I'm from the countryside. It's not the city, and things are getting, I'm getting really crazy over there. I don't know if people is allowed to talk about it, but like, it's really bad with the food and stuff. I mean, for my dad, it's okay, but most of the people is like having a really tough time. Plus that they were changing money at the same time. They were changing like the things, the Cuban money or the Cuban dollar stuff while this was happening. So a lot of people was losing money. I don't know, like it's crazy over there. But I communicate with my dad.
Are they rationing food?
Are they rationing food?
Yeah, they have been, but the lines are crazy and it's like not enough food. Like if you don't have, but they are giving food, but it's not enough food anyways.
Okay.
I'm from the countryside and people in my town, they have food. I don't know how it's in the city. That's the thing. Yeah. Because my dad can go and buy stuff from the people that had the plantation and stuff, but in the city, I don't know how.
Mhm.
It may be worse. All the cities is.
Okay. You have anything else to show us or say?
Let me think. Medina, what else can I show, like from the videos that we can show?
These are some of the works that we have of Liliet.
When you have everything together.
Okay.
Sorry. Did I cut them off?
No, they were just, your audio was crossing hers.
And so she documented Afropunk, which is a newer festival that occurs in Brooklyn, I believe. And actually it's global now.
Yeah.
And it's for like almost like Afrofuturism, community, music, culture, a collision of all of that in one. And so we did a all Cuban photographic exhibition at the end of the year, last year, featuring Liliet's work and the two other artists that I showed earlier with the light boxes and then the Chinese heritage photos. But they challenged like identity, gender, all of that. But you can tell us a little bit about this work too. I know this is older versions, and I know you update it each year after each festival.
Yeah, I mean, in each festival, I had now like 4 or 5 festivals, and I always go and I enjoy the festival. While I take the photos, I always took like an imitation of a rollerblade, the Japanese imitation, Yashica. And I use 120 film, most of the time 400 portrait. And then when I'm done and I scan the film and stuff, I always like do, I relate the portraits with, how do you say, like Cuban religion? Yoruba religion?
The Cuban religion, like the Orishas.
Santeria?
It's called, it's the same thing, but it's called different things in different countries. Yes.
Yeah, because it depends from the country in Africa from where it came. Like most of the Congo area and stuff, I think that is Santeria, and then the other one is more Yoruba.
Yeah.
You have Orisha too. Oh, I can show you another video now.
Yeah, go ahead.
This is from a queer community, and it's the last day of 2019, the 31st of December.
Okay.
This community, this is a Metaden is the name of the people, and they had a community for like queer, Black, POC people, I think. They contact me and I shoot the video and I edit. I can, let me flip the camera. Yeah, wait.
I have a question for you and Portia. Jerry, this may or may not apply to you because you do more landscape work, but for like Portia and Lily, you're documenting people. How do you, I'm gonna use the word infiltrate. How do you get in to highlight these private moments, these subcultures, these private?
They contact me because they are like, I go to places where they read poetry or they do stuff, and then you talk with people, and I'm a videographer, and then they remember me, and it's like, oh, the Cuban girl, and they text me, hey, for like the last day of the year, do you have something to do? They didn't have that much money because it's a community, how do you call this? A non-profit thing that is like, they are like, it's new. So they didn't have that money, and they contacted me, and I was like, yeah, sure. I mean, I'm gonna be in the party, and I'm gonna be like.
So they kind of hire you to come in and document this, whatever the event is, right?
Yeah. It was a dinner for like only, I didn't know the term until I went there. Like POC people were allowed to go, and then it was like for people from the community. They're like close in Brooklyn.
Well, you only shoot Portia, this Lilia, right? You only shoot film, correct?
Yeah, I
No.
mean, not for the video, no. For the in
You're
photo
still-
only.
Okay.
Still.
But
Yeah.
do you also scan it? I thought I heard you say you scan negatives too?
Yeah, let me show you. I have the scan right here. Like I was just scanning before this call, guys. Like,
Okay.
and then I use, let me see here.
So you skip the printing process that would happen with wet print processing, the old style, right?
No, for the print is before the quarantine. I used to go to a place in Brooklyn.
Okay.
Goanna's Darkroom that you can use it's really cheap for $12 the hour, I think, which is really, really cheap to develop print. They have more than 10 enlargers.
Okay, that's how you do it.
You can have color, black and white, and it's
Nice.
a community thing that if you go and you do hours, volunteer hours in there, then you will have free time in the space.
Let me ask you a question. Do you exhibit your prints anyplace in galleries?
I exhibit once in a while. Like last month, I exhibit in Barcelona, and then I was supposed to exhibit again with Fatima.
Okay.
I was in Art Basel also, in some gallery in here. Like whenever, like people sometimes they contact me like, hey, will you be part of this? Yeah, sure. And I go,
You're in New York City, right?
yep.
Do you know the Soho Gallery? Because I was in there the last time we were in New York, and it's a really cool little place. It's only one floor. It's an old building, but it's been around since, I don't know, maybe the early 70s.
Soho Gallery, I don't know, maybe, but there is so many galleries in Soho.
But
I mean, not with that name, but I don't.
yeah,
like,
maybe I can text you with or send you a message about that. You might want to talk to those people if you're looking for a venue to exhibit in.
Oh, thank you. That will be really helpful. Look, here I have these were prints that I did in the place that I told you, like in Juana's art room, and it's with the same with my camera, same camera.
Nice.
Where?
What?
Where were those taken?
No, those were taken here. No, this in Miami and this in Harlem, but like I print them in New York in Goana's art room.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a place in Brooklyn.
Can I try to share my screen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Portia, how do you document humans when it's
Well, I think
kinda, or they think you're them, so then you have access?
I just try to be in those places that interest me, and gaining, I think, let me see if I can open this. Jeez.
That's nice.
Can you guys,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Sí,
You can see this?
Yeah, you can see.
Yeah.
Okay. I just create trust, I guess, over time. The photograph, one of the photographs that you showed last year, I don't know if it's going to come up or not. Yikes. I don't know if this is taking me where I want it to go. I return again and again to different places, like when I spoke about South Carolina. These are some of the images that I shot when I was in Sierra Leone. Can you guys see those on screen?
Yes.
We see
Okay.
one.
Okay, let me see if I can.
Vertical.
You see one.
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell what I'm doing. Geez, let me see if I can. I'm trying to open it, but it's not letting me.
Jerry, did you have to pre-open your screens before you shared?
Yes, you do.
Oh, okay.
Maybe
So let me
open some, unshare, and then pre-open some.
You open a tab to wherever you want to take it, and then go back to the share.
Okay, so stop share, then I'll go up here and open one or two.
Yep.
So for my short stint in photography, I was always so like bashful about documenting people I didn't know because I felt it was exploitative. And so that's why I asked the question, how do you get comfortable taking the pictures? How do you get in? How do you establish comfort? And then, and do you care about authenticity? You know, are you wanting like a staged, which there's no good or bad, it's about what you want, but how do you, you know, capture what you feel like is authentic emotion, context?
For me, I think it's just feeling that you are not, for me, it's feeling that I'm not intrusive and that I'm welcomed to, you know, use my camera. I remember when I first started going over to West Africa and spending time in Senegal, I stayed with a family there, but I remember knowing that they were my hosts and trying to explain why I was there. I had to ask permission I asked permission if I could use my camera before I actually used it. And then once I became familiar with that particular family, I remember that I would return, and sometimes I just felt like being a part of the family. And they would ask me where my camera was, you know, so where's your camera? Like, this is something you should be capturing.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm gonna find or be able to open that the way I wanted to. So I'm just gonna let you guys talk and see if I can tool around and find something that's on my laptop already.
Jerry, how do you, with your abstract aesthetic, how do you translate context and content to the audience? Or do you care about that? Do you leave it open to interpretation?
The latter. I really don't care about context, because that's part of what I'm trying to do is to avoid context in a lot of cases, and let that little slice of this bigger reality just speak for itself.
So you want them to try to figure out, it's about trying to figure out what it is.
Yeah, and hopefully it's not such a puzzle, because then it's worthless, that it doesn't bring any response from them. So it should be something that I feel is a prompter. You know, it makes them stop and look twice, and maybe they find a relationship with that, usually from their own visual experience, if it's that type, like the one with the pond that I showed you, the ripple. You know, a lot of people have commented about that, but I'm always impressed when, like, I've had that up in a couple galleries, like Walker's Point, for example, and I love to go to an opening night and somebody's close to it. I'm standing behind them, I'm listening to them talk about the photograph, and sometimes I'll hear things that I'm so surprised at that I never even saw in the image myself, and I'm the one that created it in the beginning. So that's what I like to get out of that type of work. That it's a prompter. It's makes people think about something, or slow down about something. You know, I'm kind of, that's where I am in life. I think it's that style of photography. I've done some street photography, but not, more of it was traveling. Like you talk, Portia, about, and Lily, about confidentiality, or being in a public space. My stuff has been in more Western culture, or here, and there are some laws about that you need to be aware of. But if people are in public places, they're kind of open to being photographed. I think it's really an ethic that the photographer has to have, a sense of what's right and wrong about doing that, and not trying to misrepresent somebody, or like I can't think of her name right now, but she's Diane Arbus.
Right.
She photographed the kind of, I don't know what word to use, but the unusual people of this country. The forgotten, the odd, the out misfits, and all of that. But she made a whole career out of that. And I always felt a bit uncomfortable about some of that, because I wondered what her mindset was when she was doing that. So I say stay away from that kind of work, but that's just me. Sometimes you're in and you're going to be comfortable with somebody. I did portraits. We were in Mexico a couple of years ago. We stayed with a family for a couple of nights on a tour, and I asked them if we can just photograph, and they were fine with it. And after a while, they didn't, you could just do it, and it was no big deal. And you were just there to do your thing, and I would give them prints as a result of that too. So
you mentioned the lady, but when I was at the library, I came across this book called Natural Fashion, Tribal Decoration from Africa by Hans Sylvester. Have you all heard of him?
I haven't.
No, have
So
not.
the photos in here, color-wise, are so beautiful, but they to me are just so exploitative. And I just didn't know how I felt. I'm like, the work, it sounded like a small African tribe, and then he has them like decorated in like these foliage and different positions, one wooden gun, and I was just like, I don't know how I feel about that. And very exoticism focused, and but the photos are beautiful.
I think the photograph, the image does convey who is taking the picture a lot of times, when those that they are photographing are objectified a certain way. I feel like we have to be really careful. Like even in my decisions to capture something, well, on the trip that I was on recently, there was a crew there, and I remember the producer asking a question of her crew, who were male, if they captured this one young girl who was in a ceremony. And of course, it was like, it was a mating ceremony that was being performed for us, but her breasts were exposed, and, it's a part of the culture. But I remember the producer, who was a woman, saying she didn't want them to capture that, you know. So we could see how other males who were on the trip, who were not artists, but just how everybody had their phones out, everybody was capturing, and it made us, you know, as to have a consciousness about it. We were more conscious of whether this was appropriate, right?
Right.
It was a performance, it was being captured, it was novel to us, but as people who are makers, who make imagery, who share images, it became an ethical question for us. You know, like I probably only got a little bit of it because of where I was standing. I couldn't really see. And then when I did see, I was like, I have enough of that. Like, you know, I understand that it's not something I want to put on display in a way that doesn't carry information or something with it, you know. And I do think of like Arbus, you know, I think of her images. I think I bought a packet of postcards that have those images, and I still feel like I don't want to share them, you know, like I've never sent those postcards. I wonder why I even had them, you know, that kind of way.
Yeah, I feel the same.
Yeah, so I'm gonna see if I can share this now.
Okay. I have a small folk photography story. When I was in Cuba, I was making some art in an artist studio. And there were a lot of like, I'm foreign, but they didn't know I was foreign. They thought I was Cuban. So they thought they were capturing a Cuban artist making art in an art studio. And they're like, you know, haha. And so that's why I always ask these questions like, do you know what you're actually capturing? I'm an American who looks Cuban to them. And then I look Cuban to some of the Cuban people but what they thought they were getting like an authentic experience, like, look, this is what they do. And so that's why I always ask, like, how do you know if it's authentic? How do you get in to actually know and get comfort and permission? How are you not exploiting? How do you challenge that? Or is it just innately exploitative and then you have to...
Can you see anything? I can't.
Yeah,
is it large?
Yes.
Yes, it looks good.
Black and white?
Yes.
Okay, cool. I was opening them separately. This is in Sierra Leone. It is a performance. It's not a performance. It is performed for us, but these are young girls who are about to go through a rite of passage, and they will be isolated for about up to a year. And so we were the audience in a village. We came and we were guests, and we saw this performance take place a couple of times. There is another part to it where there's one of the mask wearer for this particular performance is a woman, where all the other mask wearers are males. But these are rite of passage performances. And I became very intrigued with what I was seeing in that image and wanting to know more about it. This is an image that I took when we went to a village of basket weavers. The woman sitting in the middle there is from South Carolina, from Mount Pleasant. She comes from. You can't see it?
It's still
on the other one?
It's on the group image.
Okay, let me take that off. Geez. Okay, let me go back up again. Sorry, see if I can do this. I feel clumsy about this and I should know better. Let me see. Can you see that one? Baskets?
Oops, not quite.
Yes, no?
No, not, it's got the image. The image tag is on the top, but the image isn't there.
It's like the top of the screen in black.
Can you hit the little green button on it? Onto the left, probably?
That one?
There we go.
Can you see it now?
Yes.
Okay, so I probably shared the wrong one, but we went to a village where women are basket weavers. What you see down here is sweetgrass that a woman from South Carolina who is a part of a family of, we call them basket sewers. When you go to South Carolina, you see them selling baskets in the marketplace. And she's 5 generations from that family. She brought her sweetgrass and she started a project with these women. And what I felt was so wonderful about it was that there was no language barrier. They saw that she was a maker and they all sat down to share what they made together.
Wow.
So it was a really wonderful moment. I'm gonna see if I can pick up one more image. Okay, I'm coming back. I'm gonna do this. Sorry.
Got it.
Mm-hmm.
So the woman right there in the middle with the blue,
Mm-hmm.
that's Nakia Wigfall, and she's from a family in Mount Pleasant, South Carolina. And when she walked into that village with us, so we're a large group, it was as if she had already been there. It was as if they knew her. When they saw that she was coming with her materials, she added on to their baskets and they added on to hers. So she had started the bottom of a basket using the methods that are used in South Carolina. And so just to kind of see this energy and how everyone engaged in the village, men and women and children, in dealing with her. It was, quite provocative, evocative.
Yes.
And we could see the baskets that they were using. And we understood also that they dyed. I thought, well, are they buying raffia? Are they getting raffia? No, they were using palm fronds and they were actually dyeing the fronds themselves using different indigo pigment or what have you.
Beautiful.
So I'll stop sharing. Back to us.
Well, we want to open it up to the audience now. Do you have any questions for the artists? Ask away. Comments, questions?
How many are we?
I can't see as much. This is the first 2 sessions I use GoToMeetings,
Okay.
and I could see the quantity more easily at the top. This one is.
It looks like there's 9 on my bottom of my screen.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I can't see, and I'm the leader. Oh yeah, it's 9.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I guess I don't have any questions. It's just that was very informative and gives me food for thought.
thank you for participating.
Yeah, it's nice to have an audience.
Have some nice menus here, even cursor effects, and so on and so forth.
What is
And if you have that first time, you can find these examples.
your friend on the phone?
But I'm going to start with a new project.
What?
Is your friend on the phone?
It started.
No, it's
Can't
tutorial.
I was wondering if you had any comments or anything he wants to add to, since he does film also, and this is a session on photography and film.
Medina,
What?
he's asking, can you repeat to him?
What's up?
Like,
I was asking if you wanted to share any of your work or if you had any comments about what's going on.
My work? No, I'm sorry. I'm working at the same time. I'm sharing a little bit of the conversation. I'm kind of like focusing on learning how to do 3 things at the same time with this quarantine. Trying to learn how to do a website from scratch. Trying to apply to my designs from it, and I'm trying to put this whole operation together here. That is, it's a lot. It's a
Stress?
it's a blending the days easily with the work. But here, grateful to be here today.
Thank you for participating.
You guys take good care.
You too.
I have that website, the name of that gallery in New York City. It's called Soho Photo Gallery. Can I put it on chat? And will
You
be able
can
to
type
put it
in
on?
chat.
yeah, no, I already find the chat, so you can put it in the chat and I will.
All right, so I'll just do Soho. And if you type that into a search, you'll find it. It's in Greenwich Village, and here it comes. There we
Okay,
go.
here. Yeah, thank you.
They have a call for entries in a national jury competition, deadline of May 1st. So maybe there's something for you to look at there.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It was a pleasure, everybody.
Likewise, thank you. And
Thank
if no one else has any question or comments, I want to thank the artists and thank everyone for tuning in and signing in. We have our next session, which is on Thursday, same time, 6:30. The focus will be on the Sage Men 5 Points Art Galleries, a bunch of different artists, different aesthetics, who are trying to share advice about how they're working through this situation and how they're focused on their practice still. So if you all want to tune in for that, I greatly appreciate it. I know they will too. It will be informative and engaging.
It was nice meeting everybody. Thank you.
Yes, same. Thank you for inviting us, Fatima.
Yeah, Fatima, thank you for doing this.
And I hope everyone is well.
And keeping art alive in the gallery.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.